Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Muscatine Mayor and City Council Forum. The League of Women Voters is happy to host this voter service event. Our goal is to promote an informed electorate and voting. We have voter registration materials here tonight if you have moved, changed your name, or are a new voter. I'm Sue Johansson, and welcome to the viewing audience and the audience in attendance. Welcome to the candidates. And tonight we will hear from candidates running unopposed for Muscatine Mayor, Ward 1 and Ward 3. Contested races include 2 candidates from Ward 5 and 4 candidates running for the at-large seat. The election day is November 5th. We're in City Council chambers at Muscatine City Hall, and I want to thank the city for opening up this space to us tonight. We are live on Channel 2 or 702, and this event will be replayed on Channel 9 or 709. The League of Women Voters is composed of people, men and women, to form an organization that informs and actively encourages voter participation in government. The League does not support any candidate, and the League studies issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Absentee voting started yesterday. The auditor is quoted in the paper today as saying that about 40% of all voters today are choosing to vote early with absentee ballots. We made the decision to hold our candidates' forums earlier than we have in the past because so many people are choosing to vote absentee. We want them to be informed about the candidates and who's running for office. The forum tonight will include statements from the candidates who are running unopposed, and the audience will have a chance to ask questions in the contested races. Volunteers, members of the League of Women Voters, have cards and pencils which you can write questions on for candidates who are running in contested races. So we're going to begin the event by giving the candidates time to introduce themselves and tell why they're running for either mayor or city council. And we're going to start with the people who are running unopposed. They're going to be given 4 minutes to share information with you, and we're going to start with Mayor Diana Brodersen.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you, as always, to the League for providing this opportunity for the citizens of Muscatine. As your mayor, I have worked on several objectives in my first 2 terms. My priority has been to listen to you and learn what is important to you. I have done this by making myself available through individual meetings, telephone calls, emails, Facebook, and small group discussions like Coffee with the Mayor. I've made it a priority to return contact with those of you who have reached out to me and come alongside you as an advocate to help you to achieve your desired outcomes. We haven't always gotten the results that you would have wanted, but we always tried and we worked together. Another priority that I have had is to increase transparency by keeping you informed. Each year, students in the Muscatine Community School District come and visit me here at City Hall. I share with them how local government works, and one of the things that I always try to highlight is explaining that the city of Muscatine belongs to them. It belongs to you, the citizens of Muscatine. You are the owner, if you will, or the boss of Muscatine, for want of a better word. Now, when our boss at our jobs comes to us and asks for information or wants to know more things about what we're doing, we answer them. In the same way, I believe it is critical that we as elected officials always remember that we work for you, and when you ask questions, we answer. I've tried to do that as your mayor. Sharing knowledge and information is empowering, and it lifts us all up. One of the ways that I have done this is by hosting the Our City Show. On Tuesday evenings, I try to highlight events, programs, services, and resources that you may want to know about, as well as things that impact your daily life, like garbage pickup or road closures or property taxes, and even different community events. As your mayor, I have worked to keep you informed. I've also worked to involve you in serving and being a voice on policymaking boards and commissions. I believe it is critical that our boards and commissions are comprised of people from all walks of life. They should be a mirror image of the people of Muscatine and celebrate diversity of representation from all socioeconomic backgrounds, careers, faiths, ages, genders, etc. That is what will produce the best policies. That is what will make us thrive and be successful as a community. When everyone has a voice and a seat at the table, we all do better. Being part of a thriving community is hard work, and we won't always get it right. But as they say, if you want to make a difference, you're going to get your hands dirty. But it's worth it. Muscatine is worth it. If we as elected officials listen to you, inform you, involve you, and keep you as a priority, then we stand the best chance to make our Muscatine the community where we all want to work and live and raise our families. I want to thank you for allowing me to serve as your mayor. It has been my pleasure to work for you, and I pledge to continue making you the priority, and I ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn next to Ward 1 candidate Dennis Freilich.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening. I would like to also thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event this evening. Thank you. As stated, I'm Dennis Freilich. I'm running for First Ward Councilman. Prior to moving to Muscatine, I attended the University of Minnesota majoring in education. Immediately after college, I went into the service and served 7 years in the National Guard. I was an NCO and later on went to OCS and gained my commission. My first duty after OCS was to be a liaison officer, where I had to deal with all sorts of internal issues within five companies of the battalion. Throughout those years of the service, in my civilian life, I was in sales and marketing. I was appointed to the position of Civil Defense Director for Big Stone County in Minnesota. I was active in the Chamber of Commerce, JCs, and in my local church. My family and I moved to Muscatine 40 years ago. Since then, I have worked in manufacturing as a production, operations, plant, and general manager until I retired. After retirement, my wife and I opened and operated a small business in town. I was active in the Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Action Alliance, scouting, and president of my church council, as well as many other jobs within the church. Throughout my working career, I've worked with a budget, developed budgets, maintained fiscal responsibility for budgets. I've dealt with many people in business and with all people of all walks of life. I believe that all this experience gives me a unique perspective to share and use as a councilman. The council's job is to oversee and to set policies for the operation of the city. I believe that all council members should remain objective, unbiased in the implementation of their duties. My goals are simple: to promote growth by helping to create new jobs through expansion of current businesses, help new businesses to get started, and to help find business to fill the gaps that now exist in the city. Secondly is public safety. We have an excellent police and fire department. They must continue to receive the training and equipment to do their jobs effectively to protect the citizens as well as themselves in dangerous situations. Third, we must maintain fiscal responsibility, work for solid budgets and fair tax rates. Finally, we need to promote citizen involvement in the community. I would like to thank the League for sponsoring this tonight. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. And we'll turn next to Peggy Gordon, who's running in Ward 3.
Well, thank you, Sue, and the League of Women Voters for this invitation to address you and to introduce myself to the community. As Peggy, I am a long-term resident of Muscatine. I have great pride and love for our city. I'm also a 41-plus year member of H&I. But on the other side, I'm also a small co-owner of a small business in Muscatine. So I understand the strengths and the struggles of all types of businesses here in town. I'm currently a project manager, program manager, and sort of work in a lot of details. I've been involved in a few city projects over the years. Basically, I am on the library board. I've been on the board for 7 years, and I was heavily involved with our recent move to the H&I Community Center, Munster Public Library, which is a beautiful facility. I was also involved with the dog park project as part of the Community Improvement Action Team, from concept to implementation, and that was a 6-year plus project until we opened last year. And I'm still heavily involved with that tool, that asset that we now have. My goals are to help maintain a financial strength while promoting growth in Muscatine. We have a good foundation, and we need to maintain that, but we need to pick the right projects to help us grow. I also want to make sure that we keep our critical safety services and departments viable, whether it's the police, the fire, the EMT, or even public works. We need to keep them. They're foundational, they're a pillar of the community, and we need to make sure that they stay strong and trained. I sort of want to see an improvement in our communication between residents and city departments. It's difficult in our society right now because we get communication sent to us in all different mediums. The day of one newspaper coming daily communicating is gone. We have social media, which has truths and sometimes not so truths. We have multiple papers. How can we get that word out to everybody so they know what's going on when they know at a public meeting? And it can't always be online because not everybody has access to that method. So I want to see improved communications because I think it's critical. I want to make sure we maintain our quality of life for our families and our children. And I want to continue to support our great assets that we have in Muscatine, the riverfront, the art museum, our sports complexes, our parks, our library. We have a lot of great things going, and it does take work and money to maintain those. As your council member, I might ask why a lot. I come from a culture where we're encouraged to ask why 5 times to get to the root. I want to know what the real need is and what the issue is, and we need to encourage that. I might ask who? Who's it going to benefit? I mean, there's never a wrong answer, but we need to understand that before we move forward. And I will ask how. How are we going to do it? How are we going to pay for it? When can we get it done? Because we do want to make things happen. And probably the biggest struggle I have, but I'm working on, is I will listen. Because I've got to listen to the residents that are going to vote me in. And we need to do that because we're not just the solution now, we are the people that need to listen and take it to the council and to our residents. So I appreciate your time, and again, the League of Women Voters for having us here to do this forum. And please still vote for me on November 5th, Ward 3. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. If we could have a round of applause for these 3 people who are running unopposed. We'll have them move to the audience, and then the people that are in contested races, if you'll move forward, please.
This me here? I can't see that side.
That's Dwayne Hopkins, Larry Murray here.
That'd be great, thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Pretty good, Carrie, and you? I've been better.
Had the flu and got a fever.
Oh, my.
Okay, now we're going to turn to the contested races in Ward 5 and in at-large seat. City government is close to the people, and our city services are used by the residents who travel inside our city limits and by people who live here. Citizens depend on their city government for public safety, fire protection, housing, zoning, parks and recreation, streets and traffic control, and more. Tonight, we have the opportunity to hear from candidates who want to serve as leaders of city government. We're going to start with introductions, and each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to share background with you so that you get to know who the people are that are running for your city council. And we will start, could we start with Kirk?
That'd be fine.
Yes, thank you.
All right, good evening. I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate the League of Women Voters
Yeah.
for allowing me to be here. I'll give you a little background of me. Prior military, I went into the United States Army, went through the Military Police Academy, graduated, did my service, and received an honorable discharge. After that, I was hired by the Muscatine County Sheriff's Department, and through that, 13 years, I went from the rank of correctional officer to a jail administrator. After that, I was hired by the state as an investigator for the Public Defender's Office. I had Eastern Iowa, and I did that for my last 7 years, and I retired out of 20 years. And then I went to the private sector, and recession hit in 2009, and I was downsized. And then I went to the Postal Service and worked, and that's where I'm at now. I've been there about 10 years, and I've held the job of PMR, which is Postmaster Relief, OIC, which is Officer in Charge, and currently I am a rural carrier, and I think I've found my place. That's about it.
Thank you. John Ginrich, you're running for council, 5th Ward. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Sue, and thanks to the League of Women Voters for having this event. As introduced, my name is John Gendrich. My wife Julie and I have been citizens in Muscatine for a little over 30 years. We have raised our 3 children here in Muscatine. They're Muscatine High School graduates. The 3 kids all went to Iowa State University, and they got their degrees. And they are out in the community where they live, of course, and doing good things for the communities where they live. I retired from teaching at Muscatine High School 4 years ago, served 26 years at Muscatine High School. I'm actually a graduate of Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa, and I have a master's degree from Northern State University in Aberdeen, South Dakota. But while working at Muscatine High School, I primarily served as our special education work experience coordinator and served as a football coach and basketball coach. Julie and I are proud of Muscatine. We are dedicated residents, and we want to see Muscatine thrive and be the best possible community that we can be. When I entered retirement, I had a lot of pressure, not pressure, but influence to run for city council and be hold a public office. And that's what I'm doing now. I am dedicated to the prospect of being a productive city council person and serving the citizens of Muscatine. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn next to the 4 people who are running at large, and we're going to start with the gentleman next to me, Kerry Dennison.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. I'm going to attempt to give you a little insight to who I am and why I'm here. Many years ago, I ran across a phrase from Bertrand Russell's autobiography, where he declares, 3 passions, simple but overwhelmingly strong, have governed my life: the longing for love, the search for knowledge, and the unbearable pity for the suffering of mankind. I believe this sums me up fairly well, and it was the first passion, the longing for love, that brought me to Muscatine when I met my wife Karen and my stepson Brian Prusman. They have shown unconditional love to me in all my flaws. For that gift, I am truly blessed. The second passion, the search for knowledge, led me to spend the past 3 years attending every meeting, forum, opening, event, et cetera, possible, and to talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of our citizens to learn as much as possible about our town and the many great people who call it home. I believe the knowledge I've accrued will serve me well in making informed decisions for our city. And that brings me to the third passion, the suffering of mankind, which led me to sit here before you tonight. If you haven't noticed, we have quite a lot of division in our country, and even in our city right now. And in many ways, we're all suffering because of it, and it saddens me. I would do my darndest to attempt to get people to put aside their differences and focus on the amazing things that people and communities can do when they come together, communicate, cooperate, and work together for the common good. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move next to Dwayne Hopkins.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for all that you do. My name is Dwayne Hopkins. I live at 5602 Reynolds Avenue here in Muscatine. I've lived in Muscatine my entire life with the exception of my military career. I'm the retired general manager of both radio stations in Muscatine, and for the last 9+ years, I've been driving a school bus for the Muscatine Community School District. I agree with Mr. Dennison in that the community is somewhat damaged. Well, it's not somewhat, it is damaged. And those elected to the city council in the future are responsible for turning that around. I think that I can be of assistance in doing that. I was honored to serve as your mayor from 2012 to 2016, so I know a little bit about the inner workings of city government. I'm delighted to be here tonight. I'd be honored to serve you again as councilman at large, and I appreciate the League of Women Voters in all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll turn to Larry Murray.
Thank you, Sue, for having us today. My name's Larry Murray, and I live in the 4th Ward. I'm running for at-large. I have 4 kids and 4 dogs, and the reason why I'm running is for my family and to teach them that no matter what you do in your life and your career, you can still help in your community. And working in a small business downtown and working for the school district, I've learned that a lot of people feel like they're not being heard. They feel like they're at the bottom of the food chain, and that's the reason why I'm trying to show them no matter what you do in your life, you can always make that step in the right direction to run. And I want to bring back work, your neighbors, my neighbors just feel like they're not being heard. They just feel like they're not being, heard and felt they're getting their needs. And when you have people tell you that you don't pay enough taxes and that's why you don't get service, that just makes you want to do something about it and makes you want to step up. Win or lose, I'm happy to run. I did my part. And that's the main reason why I want to run, is just show everybody no matter what you do, you can do it. And have your kids look up to you and realize 15 years down the road, wherever they live, to be active in their community. And results can change no matter what you do. Thanks.
Thank you. And we'll turn next to Daniel Salazar, running for at-large.
Howdy. My name is Daniel Salazar, and I'm running for City Council at large. I've been here in Muscatine ever since I could walk, and I'm running because I see it as my responsibility to serve my community. And nothing personal, but as with politics, I did not feel completely comfortable leaving my home in the hands of my opponents. In high school, I participated in speech and debate and Model United Nations. And while attending college, I was elected the student body president, as well as the vice president of the Collegiate LULAC, a civil rights organization. Personally, mental health, physical health, positivity, and making Muscatine green are at the forefront of what I see for Muscatine. This is not to say great work is not already being done, but I want to be a helping hand in that progress and overall betterment of the life of the citizens here in Muscatine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the first question comes from the League of Women Voters. It was given to the candidates in advance, and it's based on one of our policy or position statements. And the statement goes like this: the League believes that climate change is a serious threat facing our nation and our planet. The League believes that an interrelated approach to combating climate change, including through energy conservation, air pollution controls, building resilience, and promotion of renewable resources, is necessary to protect public health and defend the overall integrity of the global ecosystem. The League supports climate goals and policies that are consistent with the best available climate science that will ensure a stable climate system for future generations. Individuals, communities, and governments must continue to address this issue while considering the ramifications of their decision at all levels, local, state, regional, national, and global. And I presented, it was kind of a clump of questions to these candidates, but we have 2 questions from the audience that say it much better than I did. And one of them says, what actions should the city take regarding climate change? And the other is, what is your plan to make Muscatine 100% energy renewable? My question that came, or our question from the league came, that said, you know, how might you conserve energy in the city, promote renewable resources, purchase electric trucks or cars, installing solar panels for city operations, or even having charging stations for electric cars as a way to welcome and attract visitors to Muscatine. And what other ideas do you have to address climate change? We're going to start this question, or these answers, with John Gendrich.
Thank you. I think it's important to use all natural resources wisely and develop the most efficient energy resources available. As a council member, I will work hard to encourage city staff to work closely with Muscatine Power and Water to ensure we are using the latest and the smartest technology in city facilities. Efficiency throughout the city and city facilities is a #1 consideration. Let's use solar, but let's keep our options open to all alternatives for energy production. I think currently our city is very conscientious of environmental issues. An example, recently, the 1% sales tax that our citizens voted on as a responsible citizenry to improve our and update the storm sewer and sanitary sewer system to meet with the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Agency standards. Our city recycle and transfer station, currently using a process and experimenting with a process to recycle food waste into LP gas. Creative, inventive, progressive, and so forth. Muscatine Power and Water, our neighbor-to-neighbor friend, is currently using and offering incentives for solar energy use. So let's keep our infrastructure up to date. That's the main thing for a strong city, and so we can adopt and change. As a city council, if we need charging stations, then we need to be ready to provide that service to citizens and to tourists.
Thank you. Daniel, would you go next, please?
Yes, of course. So let me first say that if we want to work towards these goals, we have to make sure that we work with what we have now, which is Muscatine Power and Water, and the people who already work for the city. Something that we could try to do is make some type of energy management team. Now, the goal of this would be to find some type of baseline, and off of that, we'll be able to measure if we're doing better, if we're doing worse, and we can set goals. After that, we can look at our... Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now? So, first, we'd have to work with Muscatine Power and Water and with the things available to us now. And one idea is we can make some type of energy management team or committee. And the goal of this would be to set some type of baseline. And based on this, we can measure if we're doing better, if we're doing worse, and what goals you want to set for the future. We can work and look to our neighbors like Davenport, like Cedar Rapids, and Iowa City, see what type of things they're doing, and see what we can bring here to Muscatine and adopt it. In terms of power stations, power charging stations, and electric cars, I think it's rather important that we get on that boat now because, in my opinion, we're already behind. If there is a possibility that we can help bring people to Muscatine, that's wonderful. If there is a guy who thinks, hey, I'm going to Des Moines, but hey, Muscatine's on the riverfront and they have charging stations, I'm going to stop by there, why not try to do that? And with electric things, electric cars, electric buses, there's a couple different positive things to this. The first thing is on the topic of climate change will help cut down on CO2 emissions. And in terms of price, in terms of saving money, eventually we're going to save, we don't have to buy diesel, and there's less management that has to be done to these type of cars there. And overall, this would be a good step in Muscatine to keep moving forward and not to play catch up later on.
Thank you. Larry Murray.
I think Power and Water has a good system set up. They have where they come to your house and they check your house for energy efficient, for your shower head, your light bulbs, and they do tests to make sure you have, energy efficient homes. And I think that's a great process because there's some towns that don't have that luxury. They don't have that hometown vision and they don't have that capability. So I think that's one step that we're doing in the right direction. We've been doing that for many years in this town, and it really, I think, has helped over the years. Energy efficient cars or electric cars or power stations are a great idea. City cars, I don't know, it depends on the department, what they're used for. I mean, obviously for a squad car, you're not going to use an electric car, but maybe for engineers and people that go around do inspections, it might help out in the long run. But the cost, we have to look at the cost, and if it costs a little bit more, I think it'd be worth it in the long run for the environment. Power stations, what's it take to charge a car? And we do have a coal plant, which does put off pollution in our air too. So it's kind of a catch-22 in my eyes. Is the good outweigh the means? I mean, we're going to be using more energy to charge cars, and we're going to be using more coal to do that in this town. So that's kind of where I'm at on that issue. I think tourism will be a plus for the charging stations. I think bringing people in that we're a green town, I think is a good aspect, and people want to come in and use this as a template. I think it's a plus. So it's kind of a matter of just putting everything together and making a great, package and showing what we're good at. And like we said about the sewer and storm drainage, that's a good aspect. We're setting standards to other communities and showing them how it can be done and how, after 10, 15 years, it can be done. And it just costs a little time and inconvenience, but in the end, it's going to be healthier and better for the environment.
Thank you very much. Dwayne Hopkins.
Thank you, Sue. The best way to conserve energy in the community is shut the lights off. If you're not using the lights in a particular room, why have the lights on? And it's a simple concept. So again, shut the lights off. With regards to MP&W, it's a complicated business, and they use terminology out there every day, day after day, that we don't understand, we don't use, and it's a complicated language. About 85% coal, almost 6% wind energy. I bet you didn't know we do have wind energy. Comes from southern Minnesota, 6 turbines. Every day, somebody at MP&W projects the usage for the next day, and this goes on 365 days a year. So again, it's kind of a catch-22, as Larry said. The reason we have coal is we've had it for a long time. Yeah, it's a dirty fuel, but it's the best we have right now. If we were to convert to natural gas or something of that nature, can you imagine what the cost would be? And the cost trickles down to the consumer. So as you can see, I mean, the MP&W has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MP&W has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MP&W has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MP&W has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MP&W has a board of directors, and those people people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MPNW has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MPNW has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MPNW has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MPNW has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MPNW has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MPNW has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MPNW has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available. MPNW has a board of directors, and those people periodically look into the future to see what's available.
What can we do? Studies have shown that wind power is not useful for our area. Focus on this. And I like to focus on individuals. Studies have shown that wind power is not As individuals, we can have solar on our home. Technology is really advanced. I like to focus on, as well as financing options. And there's still tax incentives available. Without new action in Washington, these incentives go from 30% to 26% to 22% to 0% over the next 3 years. Without new action in Washington, now's the time to act. I had an estimate done for Moxie Solar on my home, and I will be seeking financing at the first year of solar. So now's the time to act. I will encourage MPW to revise how they meter to make this option more appealing to our residents. Don't really have enough time to go into all things in the city. Revise how they serve energy and how to start transitioning into more clean, renewable energy. But I will say that I think it would be irresponsible if we're not looking at every option available and doing cost analysis on these different options. I would be in favor of looking at electric cars and trucks in the city without looking at every option. But if they're not powered by solar charges, we are probably not gaining anything. I would also like to see MPW revise and or ramp up their solar yard not powered by solar charges to create more interest in it. Let me summarize by saying that ultimately I'd like to see individuals, the city, the county, our businesses, and industry make an investment and commitment towards solar over the next 10 years, at which point we might be able to entertain the idea of shutting down one of our 3 generators at the power plant. It's time to be proactive, not reactive. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kirk Edwards, your thoughts?
Thank you. When asked to come here and I got this questionnaire, I did some research of my own, and I researched a lot of the areas in Iowa, other cities, and around the world too. I was like number 2 in the nation for wind production, or energy, but it also uses 48% coal to manufacture its electricity. I looked at the city of Ames, and 22% of their electricity is provided by wind, and 1.5%, which I found kind of amazing, was generated by burning their garbage. And they have like 3,400 LED lights, and it saved them substantially when they installed the LED lights, smart systems. Metrolink in Davenport, the Quad City, I'm sorry, the other side of the river, the Quad Cities, they have the electric buses up there. And that's kind of where I would like to see us go, with either a fuel cell or electric buses. For our big trucks that take a lot of torque, I would like to see us go with the biodiesel that's made here in Iowa. As far as the electric plug-ins for the downtown area, I think that's kind of a novel idea, where we could put some charging stations downtown and kind of push that out on social media, use the Convention and Visitors Bureau to push that out on navigation systems, on your phones and such, and let's have these people come to Muscatine, enjoy a beautiful riverfront, charge your car, go downtown, do some shopping, walk around, enjoy our city, and maybe a slogan like get a charge out of Muscatine. And I think working with MPW to do some monitoring, real-time monitoring of our buildings and our energy use would be a positive impact too. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes that question, and we're going to go to one that came from the audience. And Carrie Dennison, you'll be the first to answer this one. We'll just go right down the row. What is one skill or experience you have that will make you an effective city council member? What is one skill or experience that you have that will make you an effective city council member?
I think my ability to talk to people at their level. I'm a very good communicator. I love talking to people. And I'm as comfortable as talking to the bank president or the CEO as I'm comfortable talking to Joe the plumber or whoever. I really think that's probably one of my strongest assets. So.
Thank you. Dwayne Hopkins?
I think my 2 terms as mayor has helped me see the issues sort of from the inside out. Even though I didn't have a vote in that process, I still see things as they are.
Thank you. Larry Murray?
I think just being a normal person, living next to my neighbors, making them realize I'm just like them, I think that makes me what people want. They don't want to feel that the people at city council are above them, and I think making them realize that I'm an average person just like them, I think that's what I bring to the table, my loyalty and my determination.
Thanks very much. Daniel Salazar?
I think that the fact that I am a student, and that grows to many different places. And by that I mean going into city council, I see an issue and I want to learn more about it. I treat it as an assignment. And with any assignment, I want to make sure I do good on it. It means that I can adapt to situations and hear other people's opinions, whether it be leaning left or to the right. It's important that we listen to all of that and try to make the best decision.
Thank you. Kirk Edwards?
Thank you. One of my set of skills is, as a past investigator, I am being able to do some fact finding, and making decisions off of those facts is key. I'm sorry, did I do something?
No, it was me. They
You
were
skipped
expecting me.
John, didn't you?
Well, that's true. We'll pick him up, though. It's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard my name.
Please, continue.
Okay, all right. Phew. All right, well, I think I have a pretty good interpersonal communication skills with people, and I'm willing to listen, and I really want to serve the people of the community. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. And John Gendrich, please tell us what you think.
Thank you. I have the ability to develop leadership. And so when I serve on the council, I'm going to do the best job I can to develop leadership from council members to help me get things accomplished. I coached girls basketball for 26 years, and every November 8th or 9th, 7th, 8th, whenever the first day of practice was, I greeted 12, 15 freshman girls in the high school balcony. And they were hanging on each other, standing against the wall, silly, great kids. And the first lesson was stand on your own. And they didn't quite know what to think of that, but I told them, quit leaning on that wall, get your hands off each other, stand up and pay attention to me. We've got some things we need to get taken care of. And the expectation was that each and every one of those girls would become better people and better players. So as a council member, I'm going to stand on my own, make good decisions, and have some fun too, I think. So that's what I bring.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks very much. This next question, and we'll start this one with Dwayne Hopkins. Do you believe the city is progressive enough in its marketing outside of the city of Muscatine?
I do not. I think we need to develop an action plan whereby we can highlight the high spots of Muscatine. As I said, Muscatine has a bad reputation. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, it might take 5 years to to get out of that mode of bad information. But I think we can do it. I think with the right counsel, we can do it. So absolutely, I think we need to market ourselves far and far away.
Okay, thank you. Larry Murray.
I don't think the city itself is helping marketing outside. We have a lot of marketing through social media, TripAdvisor, stuff like that, that brings people to our town, but nothing that we've done to bring other people back to this town or keep them here. We get a lot of visitors every year that come from Minnesota, Indiana, and everywhere. I mean, New York, overseas. I think we need to take a page and try to promote better. I don't think we spend enough money or the right resources getting the word out inside of Iowa, let alone in the nation. So I really think we need to take a chapter from what they do nationally and how we market nationally and go from there. And I think we can learn from it and better ourselves. I think there's more to grow.
Thank you. Daniel, do you believe the city is progressive enough in its marketing outside the city of Muscatine?
So I think that in terms of bettering the community, you can never have enough. You're always going to want to keep going. But in terms of wanting to be progressive, that means you're going to have to take investments and take initiative from switching to coal and moving to renewable energy and getting electric cars and getting electric buses and charging stations. You're going to have to do that. And obviously not without looking at the cost estimate and making a plan beforehand.
Thank you. John?
You know, I don't, I guess, have a good concept of what Muscatine is doing outside the city. But I know that Muscatine City, as far as marketing our community, but Muscatine has great facilities with sports complex, a beautiful riverfront, and so forth. And great industry, good jobs, and like I said, more than anything, probably a lot of good people. So for the city council to support increased marketing for tourism and so forth, I would certainly be in favor of that.
Thank you. Kirk Edwards?
Thank you. I think we need to do a better job at selling our people here. I think we have a resource here that we haven't mentioned yet is the citizens of Muscatine. They were able to help us grow to this level, and I think it's a resource that we should look at. There's a lot of potential here, and all we need to do is tap into it and let everyone know what we're about and what we can do for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie?
I played in bands for over 25 years, about 27 years, and I was a promoter and a musician and a songwriter. So I'm really into promoting, and I always spent extra money when I was in bands to promote myself because I didn't depend on anybody else to do it. And I always told everybody in our band, what do we spend this money for? I said, well, Paul McCartney be playing at Boonies, but if we're not promoting it, nobody's showing up. Then I sold radio and cable TV advertising for 5 years, where I learned a lot about branding. And we need a strong brand. I think we've got went a little sideways on branding our city. I think we need to get back to the Pearl, the Mississippi, and the Pearl City, and everything we do should reflect that. In fact, I actually I'm going to have a commercial coming out, and I wrote a jingle for it. It's called the Pearl City. So hopefully you'll get to see that soon, and maybe the Convention and Visitors Bureau will buy it from me. So.
Well, thank you. Okay. We're going to start our next question with you, Larry.
Okay.
And the question is, what are you going to do for South End? And then there's another line here that says, we want Miller Hill back open.
Oh, I agree with the Miller Hill. It's very frustrating trying to get across town without having it. Back to the first part of that is, I think just starting with the basics down South End and getting the streets and alleyways fixed. I mean, we have the concept of we can't have gravel driveways, but we still have gravel alleys, which is kind of contradicting the city and what they say. So I really think just doing the little things to get the citizens what they want done, I think is a good stepping stone, and then we can go on to the bigger projects. But, you know, when you have sewer and drainage down there where you can fit a small child down the drainage because there's no safety guards, I mean, there's little things like that down there that makes us look like we're in south side of Chicago, and I really like having the concept that, you know, we're not forgotten about, and our safety is a big concern, and just being able to drive and not put our car through the you know, the bottom of the road. The hill, I don't know all the details, I mean, who the land and who owns, I think it's on the property owner's problem with the hill. I mean, I'm not sure if the city's reached out to him and is working on that, but I really would like to find a concept to get something work to get up there, because it's a good asset for the getting to schools and everything, and getting, you know, you're dividing communities, so.
Thank you. Daniel Salazar.
Thank you.
What about South End, and what about Miller Hill?
Right, so at the end of the day, we need to make sure that they feel welcome, because they are part of this community, and unfortunately, they don't always feel like they are. They feel like they're on the back end of conversations and decisions that are being made. I went door knocking there the other day, and I ran into a lady who's been living in the same house since she was 14 years old. And she said her main concern, you know, out of all the things that she could have said, was fixing the roads. She said a while back they came in and they put some sand, but that all went away. So really just taking a big approach and initiative to try to do that for our community, because it's not just South End, it's other places as well. And in terms of Miller Hill, if there's something that we can do to get that open, then absolutely. But I'm not going to make any promises and say we're going to get there and open it right up again. So, yeah.
Thank you. John?
I think South End issues are certainly legitimate with trying to increase development and so forth. So, you know, just a focus on the city council, keeping in mind the infrastructure needs that we have to have. I think it'd be a good idea if we put in a splash pad in the South End for our kids to play in. And just the overall economic development of that end of town would be certainly a benefit to the community, for sure.
Thank you. Kirk Edwards?
Thank you. I don't know if I could address the Miller Hill part of it, because I think it needs to be further studied. It looks like it's beyond what our city can handle right now. I don't think they have the information or the knowledge possibly to be able to address that problem. I think that we're going to have to call in some outside resources to take care of that. As far as South End, I think the chamber should help with some economic development down there. Some more jobs for the individuals down in that area, some more businesses. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Dennison?
I'm going to start with Miller Hill. Without knowing more information about it and what the cost it is to fix it, we have all kinds of needs with streets. So I would need to see more information on that before I thought it was worth opening again. As far as the south side, I'm the only candidate up here that has been attending Nadine Brockert's neighborhood meetings, monthly meetings down in the South End. So I've got to listen to the citizens down there, and mostly what's talked about is infrastructure, and streets and sewers, and some of the sewer issues they're still having down there, and flooding problems in certain areas, and they'd like to see those resolved and a little more investment be made in the infrastructure down there. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dwayne Hopkins?
Public Works is working on Miller's Hill. I don't know, I don't have a current update, but I do know that they're working on it. What we really need in the South End is a grocery store. Haven't had one for some time. I know that there's a couple of locations that would satisfy a grocery store in the South End. And as far as the South End is concerned and the infrastructure and stuff like that, again, Public Works is working. We've had an array of rain in the past few months, and that makes it extremely difficult for Public Works to keep up with the street structure around town, not only in the South End, but all over town. The phase 2 of the corridor project will be implemented probably, I think, in the spring of next year. And I think that will do a great deal for South Muscatine. Rather than to call it Highway 61 South or Business 61, why don't we call it the South End Corridor? Makes it sound a little bit nicer, and if it sounds a little bit nicer, couldn't we make it a little bit nicer?
Thank you. Daniel, I'm going to have you start on this one. What plans do you have to communicate with your constituents to promote communication and transparency?
So one of the things that I am able to do, maybe easier than most, is the ability to access social media. And one of the goals of mine was maybe after every single council meeting, while they do post minutes and things online, me personally on my Facebook page or Instagram, kind of have a summary of what's going on and using that to the best of my abilities. Other than that, it is sometimes difficult to get to older residents who might not have Facebook and who rely on the newspaper. In that case, well, hopefully the information can be in there. But overall, I think just my experience with using things like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and things like that to not only get the adults now, but also the youth involved in understanding what's going on in their city.
Thank you. John Ginrich?
As a Fifth Ward candidate, I pledge to the people in Fifth Ward and actually throughout the city of Muscatine to be visible and to make regular campaign visits and always be a voice, a person who they can, residents in the Fifth Ward can voice their concerns to. I've talked with a lot of people in Fifth Ward already and made it clear that, you know, my intentions are to make sure that I represent them to the city council so that we can have open dialogue and do effective problem solving for those candidates or those citizens in the Fifth Ward. This is a good time for me to make sure I mention that my email for the city council, lowercase gendrich4council@gmail.com. So anyone listening or watching, any concerns, communication, feel free to email.
Thank you. And Kirk Edwards?
Thank you. I plan on posting my email also out for everyone. I'm into social media. I'm an old guy, but I'm on Facebook and such. I plan on, if elected, I'm going to get a track phone, and I want that phone number posted so people in the Fifth Ward can get a hold of me with their problems. I mean, you get to talk to me right person to person that way. But I will also be posting on Facebook and be very available to the people of Fifth Ward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Dennison, how will you promote communication and transparency?
Well, I think you need to be personable and approachable. Ultimately, they're dealing with people, and they want to be listened to, and to have their feelings and concerns validated. Even though I did win last election, I was out knocking on doors around Hauser and Follium, talking to them about the traffic circle, and I was amazed at how many people didn't know anything about it. And so we're not doing a very good job of letting people know what we're thinking about doing. We seem to think transparency is telling people after we've started things and after we've done things what we're doing. And I think we need to be telling people up front what we're thinking about doing and the neighborhoods that it's going to affect and the people that's going to affect. They, on my father-in-law's street, they were going to switch parking all to one side of the street. They didn't notify a single person on that street that they were even considering doing this, and they were going to vote on it until I came up and asked them and explained some things to them, and they took it off the agenda. So, you know, we need to be responsive. We need to be telling people what we're thinking about, like I said, what we're thinking about doing beforehand and get people's input before we get too far down the road with things, because once we get so far down that road, you know, I keep hearing the term slippery slope. You know, we get in that slippery slope, you know, that we feel committed. So we can do much better at that.
Thank you. Dwayne?
The current council has kind of a phenomena that I like, by the way. and that is Coffee with the Mayor. I think that's an excellent way to communicate with the public. You just need to get the public to attend. Nadine Brockert, you mentioned her. She also has a coffee event on a monthly basis. I think that's excellent. Social media is it is a phenomena, and the city has a communication director, but I don't think we're using the communication director quite the way it was intended. So I think he and social media need to go together to communicate and keep the public informed.
Thank you. And Larry?
Social media is the up and coming thing, but there's a lot of people that don't like social media. I mean, I use it, but I don't like it personally. But I think making the citizens want to care more is going to help with the communication, because they're not going to read the newspaper, they're not going to go online, they're going to skip right past the post because they just don't feel like they care, because they don't have no one caring for them. So trying to get them draw back to make them understand and want to care and show them, you know, that's why we're here, and hopefully I can do my part in that aspect of saying, hey, come back, tell us how you feel. Don't feel like you're getting brushed off anymore. I don't think we're going to get nowhere until we get everybody to come back and not feel like they're, you know, off in outer space, because everybody's just pushed away. And that's, I think, our biggest problem right now is no one cares. They care, but they don't want to care because they just feel like they're unheard, and they just, you know, all the scarring and everything in the past. So I think that's what we need to work on first.
Thank you very much. Our next question, we're going to start with Kirk Edwards. And this person in the audience is interested in the Port Authority, and if it would make Muscatine grow, and if you would support a Port Authority.
Well, I would support a Port Authority. The only problem I have is I don't have enough information on it, and I don't think anybody has enough information on it right now. I don't know how to answer that unless I had some information. But you know, it seems like it'd be an area that Muscatine would be growing. It would obviously help our economy. So I wouldn't be against it, but I sure would like to know some more about it.
Thank you. Carrie Dennison, could we move to you next, please?
Thank you, Sue. I actually attended a Regional Planning Commission meeting not too long ago, where they were talking about a port authority, but it wasn't in the sense where it's like one city or whatever. It was a linear port authority that would run basically, I believe it was from Dubuque to Keokuk. And basically, it's just more of a lobbying body and a advertising body to draw business and to the different various ports in that realm. So that doesn't really eliminate us from trying to have a port authority. I would like to see that explored, and because I think it would bring economic opportunities and growth to Muscatine.
Thank you. Dwayne Hopkins.
I think a port authority is an excellent idea. It's just unfortunate that the person that was spearheading that idea is no longer with the city. But it does equate to a lot more truck traffic in Muscatine, and I mean a lot of truck traffic, if it's done correctly.
Thank you. Larry?
I know 2-3 years ago, they were showing the plan down, you know, in South End where they want to put the Port Authority. I think it's a great location. I just think as long as we do it right and we think it through all the way, I think it'd be a great asset for this town. Just to make sure we hammer out if it's federal or if it's going to be handled by local, if the city's paying for it or they're having private investors in it. As long as we get everybody's input on it and we make sure we just do it right, that's what I really want to see, because it's a big step and a big project, but I think it's a great idea for the city.
Thank you. Daniel?
So I can't say yes or no right now because I'm not exactly sure what the people are going to think and what they want. Generally, from just briefly looking at it, it's not something that's at high demand, but it would be something that if we do is going to change dramatically what Muscatine looks like in terms of what goes on here. So moving forward, not only would I need to see what the citizens are thinking, if that's something that they want to do, but also to see how positively it's going to impact us, other than just having more traffic here. So that's what I would have to see.
Thank you. John Ginrich.
Well, I have to admit, I don't know much about the Port Authority. And however, you know, if it's a system or concept to develop business in the Muscatine community, we have a strong Chamber of Commerce, strong business leaders, great industry and that type of thing. And I think there probably are a lot of ways that we can have a strong community without, well, the Port Authority, like I say, I don't know enough about it, so I probably have said enough.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, John, you're going to start this one. And the person that wrote this question wants to know what your thoughts are in terms of the riverfront and a possible amphitheater and maybe any other kinds of development, riverfront development that you might think about. But the amphitheater is mentioned specifically.
Riverfront development has been fantastic. We have, you know, just a great facility and a feature to our community. And so to any improvements that we can make and what I have heard about the concept of an amphitheater and so forth, I would certainly support. And I think I would support. I would more than likely, I would for sure want to make sure I hear any arguments, pro or con, with a riverfront amphitheater. But, you know, to me, it makes sense and is a good idea.
Thank you. Kirk Edwards, would you respond to that, please?
Sure, thank you. I'm kind of amazed that it took the city this long to realize that Muscatine had such a wonderful resource, the riverfront. I can remember when I was younger that it wasn't that, and it was like Central Soya and such down there. It was horrible, but now it's a really beautiful place. As far as the amphitheater, anything that can enhance the riverfront anymore, and the citizens can use it and enjoy it, I'm for it.
Thank you. Carrie, let's hear from you. Riverfront and amphitheater, what do you think?
Well, on the amphitheater, being a musician, I mean, we can't have enough places to play for my liking. But I'd like to see something, if anybody been to McGrath Amphitheater on the Cedar River in Cedar Rapids? It's a beautiful little setting, and I don't see why we couldn't do something like that on the south, kind of the south end of the riverfront. Doesn't have to be too big, but enough that, you know, even if we have some, you know, mid-sized bands in, you know, they have a big enough place to play, and there's enough places to sit and be able to hear and see well. Also, it would provide an opportunity for our orchestras to play and those type of events. And I'm kind of torn on some things on the riverfront, so I'm just going to let that go right now. So
Okay.
we'll
Thank
leave it
you.
at that. Thank you.
Yeah, Dwayne Hopkins? Your
I
thoughts?
have been an advocate for an amphitheater type since before 2012. And there's reasons for that, and I'll be happy to explain that to you after the forum is over. But I would say absolutely yes, as a part of the riverfront development, an amphitheater that's large enough to house the Muscatine Symphony Orchestra is a definite plus.
Thank you. And Larry Murray?
I think the festivals they've been having down there, the Almost Friday, I think shows that the community does want to do stuff down there. I really think that's a good asset if we do put the theater in there. I think that will help. And, you know, we want it to have semi-trailers and, you know, we can make it more personable, more inviting in that aspect. So I really think this past year with all the events they've had, that really shows the community involvement. So I really think the community wants it. So I think I'm for it personally. The riverfront's a great asset. I know when I moved here in '98, when I first got here, I moved in this town, there's flags all the way down the riverfront. And then after about 2-3 years, they just disappeared. And just kind of went downhill. And just kind of hoping that we were doing all this money and all this time that we just don't let it go down the end. And that's what my main concern is, and just to keep on top of it. And that's what I hope to see in the future, because it makes me nervous.
Thank you. And Daniel Salazar, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, kind of alluding to what's already been said, every 4th of July we do have the MSO play there, and it would sound so much better if they had the right place to play. We also have, I believe, the largest orchestra in the state for the high school, and giving them an opportunity and a place to perform in our community, I think is a step in the right direction. Hopefully, this would also draw people to Muscatine, not only to come and listen, but to draw people to come and play. And I know there are even a couple bands that are here, and they're like, yeah, I wish we had a place where we can just perform for people, other than just in the bars. And in theory, because of this traffic, because of people maybe coming to Muscatine to watch these people play, it could possibly benefit the economy and have more people downtown at the shops and buying things.
Thank you. Another question here that has to do with, and we're going to have Carrie, you're going to start this one off. What do you think of the pit bull policy?
Oh, the good old pit bull policy. I've been approached, since a lot of people know I've been planning a run for the last 2 years, and because a lot of people, I announced so early, a lot of, around the 1st July or whatever, I've been approached about this quite a bit, and Peggy and I attended a function that the Humane Society, what the Humane Society, is who it was, yeah, sanctioned or sponsored, that was last week, wasn't it? And anyway, so there's a lot of good information put out there, and there were some good ideas. There was a gentleman there who said that he would help communities that were looking at rewriting ordinances. I had another citizen who approached me and gave me her ideas on what Kansas City did. And so if the people that want to see this change can get organized and get really organized and come up with something for us to look at, so we can make an informed decision on it, I'm certainly open to looking at it. Anybody who's ever gone to the farmer's market here knows what a dog lover I am, as I take mine down there all the time, and Barktoberfest and all those great events. And love that we have the dog park. So I am a big dog lover, and like I said, I'm willing to look into that. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Dwayne Hopkins, what's your thought on the pit bull policy?
I don't think the code should be breed-specific.
Thank you. Larry?
I own 4 German Shepherds, and I believe that singling a pit bull by a brand name is kind of harsh. I personally have been attacked by a boxer in my neighborhood, and it's not a pit bull, it was a boxer, and it attacked myself and my dog, and it's not the dog's fault, it's the owner. Mm-hmm. And saying that a pit bull is the most ferocious dog out there, I can't say that. I mean, yeah, you can have your statistics and that, but overall it's based off your owner. If you register your dog and you have your dog vaccinated and you don't have any dings against your dog, that should be all it should take in this town to have a dog in this town. As long as you meet the requirements that's already in place, majority of these are already in place, I think any dog should be allowed in here. Now, if it's aggressive and it causes issues, there should be something set up as you get 2-3 warnings, and if it bites somebody, you need to take the next step to, you're gonna have to get rid of your dog if it comes down to that. But I don't think singling out a specific breed is the answer, because like I said, I have 4 dogs, and there can be aggressive dogs. They're German Shepherds, they're not poodles. So, I mean, I know how it is with dogs. I love my dogs, I train my dogs well, but if they're there to protect my family, that's their job, that's why I have them. So I think we need to revise this and get rid of the labeling on it, because we're in a labeling nation now, so I think we should take the next step.
Thank you. Daniel?
So I think this should definitely be revisited, and maybe implement something different, some type of education classes, something different. And I don't have the right answer right now, but personally, I have a wild, ferocious pet goldfish. So I don't necessarily understand having a dog, but I do understand that it can be a best friend to a lot of people. And for some people, it's that emotional support animal. And taking that away from people I don't see that as right. And hopefully we can focus on not just kind of what was already alluded to, one specific dog, but have the understanding that dogs in general do have the tendency to be a bit more aggressive. And in general, we should focus on handling that, not specifically pointing out a specific breeded dog. So I'm definitely opening to revisiting that and seeing what options we have to make that better for the community.
Thank you. John Gendrich.
We've got 3 dogs. I walk them every morning and every evening, dog lovers and so forth. But, you know, to make a decision on how I would vote or view a pit bull policy without hearing all the arguments of the pit bull owners and non-owners and the concerns and that kind of thing, I just think it's a situation that I would certainly want to be well informed on, and more than likely feel like you know, it's your pet and you're going to love your pet and so forth, and take care of your pet appropriately, and enjoy your pet with your family, and maybe go from there. But certainly interested in hearing more and more about this.
Thank you. And Kirk Edwards, your ideas.
Thank you. Well, I'm a mailman, so let's start with that. No, you would think I'd be against it, but no, I'm not. I think it needs to be revisited, and I would think that maybe a homeowner's renter insurance requirement for the owners might be in line, might calm some fears. So they'll have to take responsibility for their animals and prove that they have that. But I'm willing to revisit that, sure. I mean, I hear pit bulls, chickens, and roundabouts when I go out. So
There you go. The life of the postal carrier.
No fireworks?
Thank
no
you.
no fireworks yet. No.
Okay. Last question, and then we'll go to closing statements. Dwayne, do you have any thoughts on the future development of Carver Corner?
Carver Corner, that's the last part of Phase 1 of the corridor project. Honestly, I'm kind of neutral. I think a roundabout would be good. As a bus driver, I use the roundabout on Cedar Street 3 times a day, 5 days a week. The roundabout on Hauser, the proposed roundabout, wouldn't have been good because it's too small. There's plenty of room at Carver Corner for a roundabout, but I'm not so sure that's the best way to go, particularly with the potential development of the Peace Park. So I'm kind of in neutral right now about that. I'd like more discussion.
Okay. Larry, your thoughts about any future development on Carver Corner?
I'm, again, kind of neutral also. I personally would like to see it just as a plain green space and give people a place to go. With the potential flooding and, you know, with the railroad tracks right there, you put apartments there or a grocery store, you're going to have conflicts there, I think. And then with the water, then when it rises, the seepage comes in there. The lumberyard always had problems with it. So putting a park there, you know, you have to maintain your costs and everything on that. If an investor wants to put their money in there, I'm hoping they would understand the flooding, but with the traffic, you know, is it going to be efficient, you know? But putting the money back in the community, having some development's a plus. But then you have to think of the aspect of why can't we just have a big green space that we can get to and enjoy? You know, we have Iowa Field that not many people even know we have, but it's over there off Iowa, and not many people go to it because there's not valid parking, because it's just not feasible. I just think a good open space would be a great concept, and the building on the corner there that's been abandoned for, you know, since I've moved here that no one's done anything with, I mean, why is it still standing? You know, we need to clean it up and get rid of it and just, you know, fix that intersection and enjoy the land.
Thank you. Daniel, your thoughts?
Well, I think having a peace park is a great idea, but we need to make sure that with the investment and the plans that go forward are keeping the best interests of the citizens in their minds as well, and not just putting something in that eventually might cause harm to them. It'd be great if maybe we see some type of investment or use money left over from GPC to maybe invest in solar panels in that way, or even have the merger company do that themselves as a way to help have renewable energy in our future projects and have that there for people. So overall, I'm not opposed to having a peace park, but we need to make sure that it's not something that's going to harm our community and make it harder for people to live their life.
Thank you. John?
I think it's been interesting and, and really kind of spurs your interest to be even more and more involved in city government. I've read the memos from our community development office, and I've read some information on social media and the merge proposal, request for proposal. I attended the council meeting last week, which was extremely interesting and motivational, but I need more information. I'm not, I know that development on the riverfront is key to the vibrancy of the city of Muscatine, and my feelings on what should go on with the Carver Corner is up to the people that bring in the projections and the plans and things like that. And my only aspiration would be to make sure that I vote in the benefit of the city of Muscatine for years and years and years to come. And I'll weigh everything that I hear very seriously and go from there.
Thank you. Kirk Edwards?
Thank you. I'm for development, but I need more information from down there. I understand that that's a high-end property or potential to be, and I want some input from the citizens in the 5th Ward. If I'm elected, I want them to tell me what direction I should vote. I mean, that's kind of what I'm here for, is for them to give me direction. And if you don't listen to the people that put you here, then you're not going to be here again. But I'm not ready to say yay or nay on a peace park or anything else at this point until more information was put forth.
Thank you. Gary Dennison?
Well, you're probably going to pick up a trend here, but I've been attending their meetings. As I said in my opening statement, I've been very busy, and I attend every function possible, and I've been attending their meetings, and I'm glad that we're allowing them to get some more time to try to get more of a plan, a more in-depth plan on what they'd like to do. I'd like to see it be developed as an interactive, somewhat tourist attraction. We need some tourist business in this town to take relief off property taxes. We need another revenue source. It'd be nice to see some sort of structure that would, get people to stop and maybe take their picture with it or whatever. Blue Earth, Minnesota has a Jolly Green Giant statue that hundreds of people stop and take their picture with every day, and including us. But the development, I think the major development, I like the whole village idea, but I've heard some people think it's the whole south end, and the village idea is just the surrounding area around the Carver Corner, and an area that really needs some development. If you've looked at the one side of Hershey and the one side of Green Street, it'd be nice to have new development in those areas, trying to mix in with some of the existing buildings and maybe revamp those. So like I said, I'm glad we're giving that some time so they can get farther along. So.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Everybody is going to have 1 minute to make a closing statement. And let's start with Kirk Edwards.
All right, well, thank you. First of all, like I say, I started this process to serve the community. I've served on many boards, and Chaplain's Corps, I was administrator administered the Neighborhood Watch program. I was the county representative. I ran the Crime Stopper program. I was into community policing, but I look forward to, if elected, working with all the council members to move Muscatine forward in a positive process. I want Muscatine to be ranked #1 in the state in the standard of a place to live, to work, to raise your family, and I'll work towards that goal. Thank you.
Thank you. John Gingrich, your closing statement.
Thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Let me start out with that. I want to serve the citizens of the Fifth Ward, and I want to serve all the citizens of Muscatine with informed and productive council business. Muscatine is our home. It's always going to be our home, and I'm a proud resident. When I'm 98 years old, and my wife is running around town as a young 90-year-old, I've been given, the instructions that rather than fool around with me and have to fuss over me too much, she's going to push my wheelchair down the hill, jump the tracks, and ride on into the river. We have a Riverview home. And so I have this vision that when I'm 98, Muscabus is going, because I drive the Muscabus, and Muscabus is going to, the great driver, very congenial and so forth, is going to pull up to the end of my street, let me out in my wheelchair, give me a nice greeting goodbye, and my wife is going to come out, push me down the hill, and there I go. And I'm pretty happy with that, because I know that I'll be floating right by a beautiful riverfront, a wonderful city, and a city that I will feel like I've been proud to serve, at least one term, hopefully, as a city council member. So thank you.
Thank you. Daniel,
Wonderful.
your closing statement.
Well, thank you, Sue. Thank you, everyone here, and thank you, the League of Women Voters. It's my goal to help build a healthy community, even more so than it already is. I can't promise things will be perfect, but I can tell you that I'm going to try my best to help include everyone in the community. We'll continue fighting for not just the 18% of Latinos, but any and other minority groups here that don't feel like they're being heard. I hope there can be others like me, whether I win or not, and by that I mean ordinary people who think they can do extraordinary things. Ordinary people who are young, and whether they be Latino or whatever, that they feel like they have an opportunity, just like anyone else, to be in a race to help lead their community. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Murray.
I just want to say thanks to everybody on this journey that I'm doing, running for city council, and if elected, my assurance is, do my best and be my loyalty and my outgoing to make sure the people of Muscatine are heard for, what they want, and I really just want everybody to realize I'm one of them, and that's why I'm running, and, I just want to make us one big group again and not diverse and separated like I feel like the city is. So win or lose, let's try to make this a better place.
Thank you. Dwayne Hopkins?
Well, my closing statement isn't quite as colorful as John's. If I'm going to go, I want to go in a boat, not a wheelchair. But anyway, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this event. I used to co-sponsor it with you,
That's right.
and now I'm a part of it, and I'm honored at that. But I'm just saying that November 5th is the day, and it's the day that I wish everybody that's in attendance tonight and everybody in the community of Muscatine, or actually in the state of Iowa, would vote, even though just a small percentage of those people will vote. I would like everybody to vote. So I'm asking you for your vote November 5th, and thank you for having this tonight.
Carrie Dennison?
Thank you. Yes, I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for conducting this, and everybody for coming out, and everybody watching at home. I love to get philosophical, so I had a closing written up that's pretty philosophical, but I'm just going to skip that. I don't want to put anybody to sleep, but I just want to say I think I've made it clear that the work I've been doing over the last 2-3 years or whatever to get involved in this community. I mean, at football games, you can see me out the concession stands. I mean, I serve meals for those less fortunate at Thanksgiving. I mean, all the volunteer work, all the meetings and things I attend. I've been doing the work. I've been informing myself so that I can make great decisions, and all the relationships I've made, because so much of this is about, building relationships and connections and trust. And I think I've been making those connections and building those relationships. So I ask for your support on November 5th. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Well, the League of Women Voters wants to thank all of the candidates who are running, Diana Broderson, Dennis Frillick, and Peggy Gordon, who were up here earlier, and the 6 people that you see before you. Thanks to the audience who's here and those at home, the League, and all the League members who volunteered tonight. We want to thank the City of Muscatine for providing space, the MPW, Digital TV, and MCC for making the viewing tonight possible. It's going to be rebroadcast on Channel 9 or 709, so if you know somebody who missed it and they want to see it, they can tune in. They can also upload it, I think, from the YouTube station. I appreciate the technical support of Jeremy and Chad Bishop. As you've heard, Election Day is November 5th, and we will be electing, for the first time, our municipal people as well as school board members. That election has moved from September to November. And so be mindful of going to the right polling place. And if you're unsure, you can go to vote411.org, and that would be a website that could help you determine the appropriate polling place. And I encourage everyone to vote on November 5th. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Muscatine County, thank you and good night.